Hi, welcome to the Diablo podcast. My name is Flux. I am the host, and we are online at diablopodcast.com. My guests on this show are the Eliminator
Greetings.
and Wolfpack.
Hello.
And this is part two of our pre-beta, post-Blizz media events podcast extravaganza. Part one was yesterday, and that featured the Eliminator and Diablo's minion and lots of technical difficulties. And Wolfpack had a chance to listen to that earlier but didn't, and he still wants to mention a couple of things. We talked about yesterday, what was that, Eliminator? Auction House and the banners for online B3, D3 stuff.
Yep, and also opening cinematic.
Yeah.
And the little possible retcon.
Yeah, the crazy retcon with the Dark Wanderer.
Yeah, maybe. We don't know if it's actual fact or not.
And since we recorded that today, there's been Blizzard's NDAs leaking like a sieve, and it's not my fault. I promise, it's not my fault. A Chinese site just posted all kinds of stuff about the auction house, in Chinese obviously, but there's all the screenshots are included. And you guys had a look at that. We talked about it yesterday, Eliminator. Do you think you've looked at the pictures, right?
Yeah, I looked at the pictures.
Does it basically what you expected from our conversation?
Yeah, the one thing that interested me was it seems that Blizzard's going to work almost like a bank where you put money into Blizzard and it holds it there, and then you use that money through their server to buy things.
Somewhere in a mansion in LA, Bobby Kotick just shot out of bed. What? Eyes gleaming like Scrooge McDuck.
he's just about to take his morning swim in his money pit.
Like the bat signal goes off and he hears it. So you were not on the podcast yesterday, Wolfpack, because you had a real life or something like that.
Yeah.
Can you try to not let that happen again, please?
Yeah, I'll make sure.
Okay, good. We got a beta coming up after all. And you probably saw some of the leaks of the auction house and such, but you hadn't heard an official story. You've been pouring through the Chinese site before you got busy watching Warcraft mods.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, it's news to you, the RMT and everything?
Yeah, it's a really, really brilliant move on Blizzard's part because throughout the history of their games, starting with Diablo 2, probably even earlier, they've had to combat third-party sellers of their gear for real-life money, and it's always been against their term of service, and they've banned thousands of accounts. But really, if you can get the item for real-life money within the game itself, and not, why would you ever risk your credit card going out to third-party sites? And that's just a brilliant idea from Blizzard. It's also a really good idea to have it go from one player to the other, as to prevent this from causing rampant inflation. Like, the item has to be dropped in the game for it to be sold for real life money. So I think that's a good idea too, so that not everyone's running around. There's still some prestige to having really good items that way. But yeah, from Blizzard's perspective, it almost totally eliminates third-party sellers. It gives them a little sliver of the profit, I assume, for every transaction. I don't know if we don't know the details yet, but I assume they're going to at least take a sliver of every transaction. So that'll be some really good income for them. But I mean, they can sell Diablo, or I don't know that they're going to call them, but like Diablo cards, like 20, 30 Diablo bucks as gift cards in stores and stuff like that.
Oh my God, you're so evil.
Well, I mean, it opens up great potential for them. Like the Eliminator was saying, in one of the screenshots, it was very obvious that you had a pool of money linked to your account from which you can buy and sell or post auctions. And then throughout it all, Blizzard's taking a sliver. It's really a genius idea on their part. From my perspective, I am terrified that I'm going to end up spending a ton of money on the game that I wouldn't otherwise.
I'm just skimming over the auction house facts here. FAQ, not FAX, which I didn't have in my possession yesterday. And we don't want to spend this whole podcast on the auction house, since that was a lot of yesterday's podcast. But one little note here. Please note that we plan to waive the listing portion of the fee for a limited number of transactions per account. In other words, for these transactions, the seller will only pay a transaction fee if the item is successfully sold, and that fee will not include the listing charge. We'll have further details on this at a later date. In other words, the first 5 are free.
Yeah, it's like power brokers are going to get charged for mass selling, which is good because then that will control the Chinese farmers and stuff like that a little bit.
Yeah, but it was like what Dan was Wolfpack was just saying with You know, they'll lure you in.
Yeah.
Oh, it's free. I can just list an item for no charge. Wow. Okay, a couple of the brief tidbits here. None of this is in the facts Blizzard sent out. Those are all about the auction house and the beta. So these are all stuff that players got in conference, and hopefully we will get people will be posting recordings and transcriptions of the entire Jay Wilson interviews and such. But from what I was told, again, this is not I wasn't there, so this is just second-hand notion. But everything else I've heard is checked out 100% so far, so I'm pretty confident with this. The skill limit, which was 7, and a lot of people complained about that. Did you guys complain about that?
No, I didn't.
I didn't care.
It's now 6.
Yeah, now I care.
The proverbial camel's back has just broken.
Yes. You know what I find is interesting is there's still 7 tiers, right? Unless they've trimmed down the fat and now there's only 6 tiers. So that means you're not going to be able to get a skill from every tier if they still have 7 tiers.
I don't know if that would have been a real selling point, though. You know, I think that the tier groupings are a little bit arbitrary.
Well, I think while you were going up the first time playthrough, you know, you would, as they would open up, each tier would open up. So you'd be like, oh, okay, well, maybe it would entice you to try that tier's skills. But now it would be like, maybe I want to save this one for a later tier. That's if there's 7 tiers. I'm kind of guessing that there's not 7 tiers anymore, that there's 6.
I haven't been told, but I don't know one way or the other. I don't think that matters because it's going to be so easy to respec and change around, which we're going to talk about in about 30 seconds here.
Yeah.
You have any comment on that, Wolfpack?
No, I mean, it's a little disappointing, but in Diablo 2, I was using 3 skills 99% of the time. So I don't think it's going to be a huge deal for me.
Yeah, if you guys remember a couple of months ago, Bashiak posted a thing. You know, there used to be the hotkeys were 1 through 5 plus left mouse, right mouse, and the tab button cycled the 2 skills on your right mouse button. And they took out the icon for the tab. I mean, it used to be, if you look at interfaces from a year ago, there's a left mouse, a right mouse icon, and a little tinier next to it icon for what's on the tab switch. And they took out the tab display on the interface because they said that nubs couldn't understand it, which is their excuse for everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it seemed weird then because then, you know, health potions usually go in the 5 slot, and so you had 1, 2, 3, 4 skills and then left mouse and right mouse. I'm like, why do they have 7 skills when only 6 of them display? So maybe that's kind of what led to this change.
What I hope is that they didn't make this decision purely based on the comment he made about real estate, UI real estate being at a premium, and they didn't want to have an extra slot just because they didn't want to have the UI be, a half an inch bigger?
Yeah, I agree. I hope that wasn't the reason. I mean,
or the avatars could be 1 pixel smaller and they could just space them out differently, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope their reasoning is a little better than just that. That maybe there is now only 6 tiers. That would be at least a little bit better for me.
And okay, we've mentioned the number of skills. That's actually a very small portion of the big skill change, if you can believe it.
Huh.
That's almost a side quest here. The big change is that there are no more skill points. There's skills are on or off.
Huh.
Yeah,
I don't like that change.
When I first heard this, I was really like, oh, okay, so now we're talking it's Guild Wars or something. But really sitting there thinking about it, the runes really are the most important thing in that game, because now they're the things that are going to go up in levels, and you're going to acquire them through drops and stuff. So they're really going to be the influencing factor to your skills.
Any comment there, Wolfpack?
What's going to control skill damage then? Just is it entirely based on the attributes attack?
Level, I'd imagine, right?
But everybody will, the level 20 character with the skill will be less powerful than the level 30 character. I think character level it scales up as well as attributes, and obviously you get more attributes per level, so that's going to help to it.
Yeah.
So it's going to work.
We don't know what kind of item mods there are. That's what I'm wondering about.
Yeah.
There might be really specific, plus to fire damage spells kind of item mod things.
Yeah.
This is closer to like WoW's setup now, that they used to have skill levels and then they took away that feature and just made it go up per level.
When you're placing a skill point in a skill, it raised damage. It gave more ways for a skill to grow in power and more ways for you to customize your character. Really, like if you wanted to put 10 points in Meteor for Meteor to be super strong, or just 1 point, And then I mean, there's also before you could have a high level skill rune and a high level skill points, and now it's just how high is your skill rune in the Meteor skill that determines, I guess, your damage. I don't know. I mean, I suppose it could be okay. I mean, if they're taking away skill points, they've already taken away stat points. Like how much of Diablo 2 is left.
Customization.
Yeah.
It seems like they've repeatedly said they want to really do customization through items and not so much through character clicking buttons. I mean, as you just said, there's no automatic attribute, no non-automatic attribute allocation. Easy for me to say. And now there's no skills. The thing that I wondered about when I heard this is just, a lot of how you customize a character, especially in Diablo 3, they were saying we were going to not have enough skill points to max out all our skills. So, it really depends what you want to be stronger at is what you'll put more points into. And that's just a major aspect of character strength. If your wizard's got the same skills as mine, but I choose to focus on the fire ones and the lightning ones instead of teleport or something, it seems like it's going to take away a level of character differentiation unless that's made up. Plus, especially with the talisman is out, because the talisman was going to be, charms were mostly going to boost your attributes from what we've been told. And if, I mean, who knows what they're doing with attributes, but they might have made one really boosts, this skill, and another one really boosts this skill. So you would have been kind of double customizing your character with more skill points and more attribute points to boost the same things. And now they're both gone. So
soon to be added in an expansion, most likely.
Who knows?
And so you said traits are out too?
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
They're not out; they've just been changed around a lot. But I have actually the least information about that, so we have to speculate mostly.
Oh, okay.
One other thing that I thought about this skill thing is they've repeatedly said they don't want there to be 1-point skill wonders. They don't. I mean, a lot of skills in Diablo 2 were really good with just 1 point. Teleport and curses and stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe they were just having problems finding any way. We kept wondering how are you going to make, like teleport or vault or something like that scale up in the same sort of value that, attack skill does.
Yeah.
I mean, either teleport works or it doesn't, I mean, I guess you can play with cooldown times or resource costs or something.
Or distance that they travel from teleporting or vaulting.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, unless it's like a foot per point,
Yeah.
Would you really notice a difference between 6 points and 12 points or something?
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe, something they wanted to get away from. They wanted to make each point feel like it has an impact.
And maybe they just couldn't do that,
Yeah.
Certain skills just couldn't work. And they said, well, if they're all 1 point, then that's that problem. And it's I don't know what the actual respect mechanism is, but it's very easy now. I mean, it's, with just... So it's like respecs aren't even in the game anymore exactly. You just switch from one skill to the other. It's not like you're reassigning points. You're just kind of turning it on or off, forgetting it.
Well, that part's nice. Being able to experiment is always a good thing. Especially in a game
some people will complain the fact that now that people wouldn't have to re-roll characters, you're just going to roll one guy and then just switch out your character with different skills.
That's true.
That's been a long-term complaint system.
Yeah. They're going to complain that
I think it's great for our first character because you can just try everything,
Yeah.
And I think eventually that people who play a lot will, you'll specialize. You won't want to, in theory, your equipment and your non-traits, which we're going to talk about in a minute, you'll have a lot of stuff set up for whatever your build is. And you can't just switch around 3 skills and go with the same gear and the same other stuff because it wouldn't really be optimized.
Yeah, I mean, this really factors into Blizzard wanting to make the game for not necessarily us. They want to make it for the 95% of the people that haven't played it ever before and that are going to try to playing it for the first time.
Yeah, and I mean, you can also look at like a Diablo 2, the end game. I mean, if you want to switch I don't know, like a hammered into a zealot, it's not, you don't just change the skills and you're done, It's
Yeah.
I mean, every piece of equipment, all your charms, and a lot of other stuff you'd have to change. So I think that we'll eventually have a lot of different builds, and you won't just have one wizard that does everything, like Harry Potter. So
all he does is print money.
Yeah, well, so does Diablo 3 apparently. I was just glancing at the FAQ here, and it says that they're going to be doing third-party payment services. They don't actually say PayPal at any point, but it seems pretty clear that's what they'll be using. So it may not be Blizzard bucks. You'll just link your PayPal account to Blizzard, and that way you can take it directly out of your bank account and not buy groceries anymore. Actually, a win force.
That's good.
So it really is going to be like a bank account.
Yeah, it'll always be empty.
Yeah.
It's good. It'll give people who play too much time, an excuse. Yeah, honey, I made $4 today selling a hat. Yeah, great, thanks. I sold 2 shakos and a chipped gem. Anyway, moving right along. Traits. Traits are out. We've seen previously there were like 30 traits per character and all kinds of different varieties of them. And apparently the whole system is gone. There's now some sort of thing with passive skills where there's like 3 different levels and you unlock skills at each level. I haven't seen pictures of this or exactly detailed images, but my impression that it's kind of like the followers skills, where there's like 4 skills and they have 4 different tiers or 3 skills at each tier, and like you pick one or the other. And maybe there'd be a little more depth to the passive skills, traits, whatever they're called now. Hopefully. But I mean, it sounded like you would have choices. Like say at level 10, your wizard could add plus 50 fire damage, plus 50 arcane regeneration speed, plus 10% skill damage, something like that. I mean, I'm totally making this up, but
there's still a passive system there. It's just totally different.
Yeah, it's just much more, I think, generic, and it's much less varied. I guess they just couldn't find a way to make all the traits balance out or something, or it was too complicated. I don't know.
More too complicated for the plebeians that playtest the game.
Yes. They seem to really not have much respect for the intelligence of their gaming public, do they?
Well, I mean, they must hire the lowest common denominator to test it. That's why they probably don't.
Maybe they bring in like Bashiak's mom or something for, I mean, not him, not him specifically, but like they bring in little brothers or something of people, and it's like, hey, can you figure this out in 6 seconds? Oh, too complicated. I think I like traits. I liked that there was a lot of variety, and they kept saying that each little point would really make a difference. It seemed like it was a really good way to customize your character. But since we don't have customized characters anymore, we all just play the same character with no skill points and no attribute points and
and no this, no that.
I got too tired to continue.
No passive points, no trait points.
The ennui overwhelmed me.
No charms, no talisman.
It sounded like a Dr. Dre song. If you recall the last screenshot we saw, I think one of the followers, there was a screenshot of the interface or the skill menu when they were showing off the runestones. And the traits tab was gone from the skills thing, and there was just a star icon on the side of the tabs. I should have sent you a link to this picture before I started babbling about it. But anyway, previously
I remember that pic with the star on the side of it.
Yeah, and it was like it looks like a star from like a general's uniform kind of thing, like a military star. And we all assumed they had just redone the navigation and now traits were over on the side instead of being like, a tab at the top, as it was at BlizzCon last year. But maybe that was what that related to. And now the star is just the passive and you don't use it as often. Whereas traits, you would have used it constantly, so they had it, half and half with the skill menu.
Right.
Tragic.
Well, the item system needs to be amazing then, because they're taking away skill points, they're simplifying the trait points. If items are going to be the primary way of making your character unique, it's just I don't know how they're going to do it, because it sounds like so far that the item system is less complicated and less diverse than the Diablo 2 item system. So, but I don't know about enchants yet, or about what we're going to do with these superior or enhanced items that we saw in the BlizzCon build from 2010. But I mean, who knows if those items are even still in?
Or even higher level gems. We don't know what they do really. We can just speculate that they go up in percentage, but they might actually add more attributes and more bonuses the higher up they are.
Yeah, we don't know much about items. That's one of the things that's still very much in the dark. We just see little tidbits and screenshots occasionally and reports from gaming demos. But also, I mean, keep in mind, if you look back at what Diablo 2 Classic's item system, I mean, set items were almost useless. There were no uniques beyond normal. There was no elite items. There were no rune words. So, I mean, I guess they have to leave some room to expand and keep adding stuff in expansions and patches.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I don't think we're looking at the final system, in 5 years from now. We're going to have a lot of different stuff.
It's going to be interesting to see if it evolves as much as the Diablo 2 game did.
So speaking of items and other features, skill runes are not going to be in the beta for two reasons. For one, you don't really find them that early. Apparently, they don't really drop until like Act 2. They're a higher level item, even the lowest level skill runes. And the big reason is that they are being entirely reworked internally by the development team, which does not include beta testers because we're just tech demo idiots. And the thing with skill runes is that they are considering adding a random magical bonus on each skill rune, which only appears once you socket it.
Huh.
So, for instance, you'd get the rune, and it'd be a level 5 crimson or whatever. And once you actually put that in the skill, it'll say +8 to some attribute or something like that. And then you can use it, or you can trade it, or you can sell it, or you can give it to another character because it's more appropriate. The bonus is better for them, that kind of thing.
So it like identifies it basically.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. It's like skill runes are unidentified until you actually socket them in something.
I guess they did that so that it would encourage people to want to socket skill runes just to see what happens.
This is one change that I thought sounds awesome because this creates a market for unidentified skill runes. Because before, when I was picturing how the end game would go, you'd want to get maybe 5 or 6 of each level 7 rune, and then you're done. But now, there's going to be a market for unID'd skill rune level 7s. There's going to be a market for attack or precision skill runes with Crimson. So that's actually a really big change to how the item system would work, and it makes more sense to give skill runes their own unique color because you're actually going to want to find a lot of them to get the ones with the best bonuses that make sense for your build.
Yeah, good points on that. So that's what I was thinking of for that. I was also wondering, in related function, what would happen, ultimately with skill runes. Like, I mean, in runes in Diablo 2, you actually use them up in items. I mean, eventually there's kind of a glut of all the items and, enigmas for everybody and stuff. But at least they're doing something with the runes. Whereas in Diablo 2, Diablo 3, it seemed like we would just be using the same skill runes forever. But as you point out, if they have modifiers on them, you'll want to keep finding new ones and try to find better ones, and you'll stop using the one that just has +1 to strength or something and try to find a better level 7 Crimson rune.
Right.
The only kind of item sync for skill runes previously was if you wanted to break them down to get the components from them for crafting, or if you had them on a hardcore character who died.
Right.
Feed the loot whoring addiction.
That's the name of the game.
Yep.
Huh. Yeah,
so that'll be a good game. Diablo 3 loot whore.
Yeah.
just come right out and call the expansion what it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, so that's if we're down to 6 skills, that's
Losing
6 different magic bonuses you could potentially stack.
Yeah. And we don't know what the skill rune bonuses are at all. I mean, there could be really high level ones that, like, maybe across the board. Instead of it just being +5 to some attribute, it's +10 to skill damage or something like that. And maybe there's like ultra rare ones you'd be like, oh my god, want.
Yeah.
Super legendary skill runes or something, or possibly we might see skill rune recipes eventually from the jeweler.
Yeah.
It costs you ridiculous amounts of materials, but it could possibly make you some incredibly awesome skill rune you couldn't get otherwise. Loot whore.
Yeah.
That'd be cool if there were sets.
Yeah, skill rune sets.
Oh god.
One for every color.
It's like Pokemon here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Collect them all.
Because this basically is adding 7 item slots to your character as opposed to just skill modification.
And you'll want to switch them. I mean, we don't know how varied they'll be. This is, by the way, not a permanent feature. This is something they're testing out on their strike team. That's why they're not including them for us noobs in the demo, in the beta.
I hope it goes through.
Yeah, if they like it, they'll keep it in, and if they don't, it won't. But it seems to me like it's a pretty cool concept.
Yeah.
You guys seem to like it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for my topics. We're at 30 some odd minutes. Any other burning comments? You guys have seen all this news leaking out. Are you excited about 4 hours from now finding out more?
Yeah.
Is the
so I was joking, right, about having set item skill runes, but
To the best of my knowledge, that's not a feature, but I wouldn't rule it out in the future.
Well, it would be cool if you had a bonus for using like one of each color, or if you have all 6 crimson, you got some sort of bonus for that. I think that would be cool. Give you incentive to use like all golden runes.
Just for variety.
Well, if you get a little, now all your skills cost 10% less, or something like that. Something going along with the theme of the rune.
But I thought the runes weren't supposed to have themes. That was the...
I was actually just looking at our skill rune page in the wiki a few days ago, rewrote the whole thing. And going back to like 2008, how much they've changed already in so many different ways. And can keep going. It seems like there's just so much room for keep adding new features, and we all kind of figured there'll be more stuff in the expansion. Maybe like a 6th skill rune that does other bonuses.
Well, no wonder the game takes so long. They can't make up their minds.
Yeah.
What they want to do.
That's one of those topics that comes up. Is there some point where there's enough iteration and you can just say good enough, move on?
For them, never.
Yeah.
Yep.
It seems like you think they're cracking down now because they really want to get the thing out this year. We've got this tiny little beta-sized, this demo-sized beta that's not really going to be a big test just so it can be fast. And meanwhile they're frantically trying to implement a new skill rune system, while we're doing the beta testing. Yes, finally a deadline seemed to appear. Apparently this end of this year was the deadline. And they're just like, we can make some changes and patches. Okay, we're done. Good enough.
Yeah. Yeah, they could really add that feature in a patch. A month or two later down the line if they really wanted to. You have the runes normally, and then they just say, okay, well now there's also this new feature with the runes where you get these little bonuses when you equip them.
Yep, I agree with the Eliminator. There's a lot of unknowns right now, so too early to panic. Or is it ever too early to panic?
No.
It's never too early to panic for some people.
People were panicking on the opening game's gameplay movie because it was too colorful. It's there's been panicking since 3 seconds after this game was announced, and it probably will never stop.
All right, well.
This is Flux, and goodbye. We're on DiabloPodcast.com. Bye.
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 Moo. Moo.